Hi, hello, long time no speak. Accidentally had a little bit of a hiatus from my long form videos, which the reason may become apparent next week. I feel like I'll film a video after my appointment today, but anyway, I wanted to come and discuss something with you that I've been trying out, because this is the video that I needed when I was looking at this. And it is the fact that I'm wearing two freaking watches. So I've been trying out the Whoop for a month now, and I have many thoughts. I got this, obviously it's based around recovery more so than anything else. It isn't meant to be like a sports watch per se. It's meant to be around recovery, but it's really aimed at athletes. It's aimed at you wanting to perform your very best. And everyone who I'm seeing with the Whoop that rave about it are people who are doing more higher level stuff. So I thought, you know what, I really want to be locked into my training this year. I really want to make sure that my recovery is as good as my training. I want to make sure that I'm really covering all bases so that I can complete my ultra, so that I can complete my marathon to the best of my ability. I want to make sure all bases are covered. So that is what made me get the Whoop. Now, when you get the Whoop, you get a month's free trial, so you don't have to pay for it immediately. You can just get a month. And I'm glad, because I feel like the internet have been lying to us. All of these people who say they love the Whoop, it's because they're affiliated and they get it for free. There is no way that anybody needs this or should be using it. So number one on my list is the cost. So let me just find all the stuff so I'm talking sense, but basically it's a subscription. So whereas if you're going to buy a Garmin, you're going to buy an Apple Watch, you're going to pay a price, and yeah, it might still be kind of expensive. You can get some of these that are a lot cheaper. You can get some of these that are more on the high end. So of course there's different things for different budgets, but you're buying that thing that one time and that is it. You are not having to spend any extra money. With the Whoop, it's a membership. So you can pay £27 a month for this, or you can pay £384 24 months. That's 2 years. This doesn't cost £384. It's a subscription. You still have to keep paying for it. So once your 24 months is up, you're going to have to pay another £384, or you're going to have to continually pay £27 a month. And if you do choose the monthly option, you have to pay for a minimum of 12 months. So you will still be paying a lot of money. You'll be paying £324. And if you want any other strap that's not the black, you have to pay £50. It's not clicking on any of the other options right now. £84 for that band, £44 for that band, 44 for that, 52 for that. It's just extortionate. And I didn't pay £300 for this. I paid 220 maybe. And I get that for as long as I take care of it. For as long as I need this, I will have this. I own it because I paid that amount of money. I do not want a continuing subscription. So that immediately put me off. But I thought, you know what, if it's good, then I'm willing to get into it. Now, I've only had it a month, but I feel a month is a good amount of time, and you should be somewhat in tune with me during that time. The discrepancies between what's showing up on my Garmin and what's showing up on my Whoop are absolutely crazy. One of the huge things that it just cannot seem to get right is steps. Now, steps are a new thing, and you can see that because it literally says it's in beta. But my argument is this whole thing is to do with recovery, right? So if you don't know what expenditure I've done throughout the day, if you can't accurately measure that, you can't accurately tell me how to recover from that, because you don't even know what I've done. So if you can't even track my steps, which is the movement that I'm doing every day, when we're looking at fat loss, that's one of the huge factors. That is a main factor in that process. If you cannot even accurately measure that, how the hell are you supposed to do your job? How the hell are you supposed to do anything else? And if we want to be really serious, think about the first iteration of a fitness watch. Think about the first iteration of tracking anything fitness related. A pedometer, whose literal goal is to track your steps, is to clip onto your waistband and clack every time you move. So if the very first iteration of anything fitness related whatsoever was a pedometer, and this band, which is going to cost me £27 a month for the rest of my life, cannot do that, what do you mean? That's a huge thing for me, and that for some reason doesn't seem to be a huge thing for other people, but I just think that's mind-blowing. So basically you're telling me that your device can't measure accurately, and you're also telling me that you don't understand any of what I'm expending. That blows my tiny little mind. Something else that I want to discuss is it goes through like, sleep is a huge thing and is a massive thing obviously towards your recovery, and I'm so anal about my sleep. I love working on that, trying to make it better, so that's fine. Recovery is another thing. Obviously, again, it's mostly to do with recovery, but alongside that there's strain, and the strain is obviously what we need to recover from, so it needs to be able to accurately track those things. And one of the things with this band is you don't have to add in your activity. So obviously on my Garmin, if I'm going to start a run, I'll click run and I'll start my run. If I'm going out for a walk, I'll click walk, start my work. Gym, same thing, which personally I don't think is too much of a ball ache. I can just click that. It's a 2-step process. It's not that deep. I don't think it's a big deal. When it comes to Whoop, I've noticed it doesn't actually automatically track anything unless I've gone for a run, in which case it does automatically track that and it recognizes that you've done something. Naturally, because my heart rate is through the roof, so, but it doesn't know when I've gone for a walk, doesn't know when I've gone to the gym. I did a yoga class, tracked it on my Garmin, went to input it because you can input your activities after the fact, you can add it in there. I went to input the yoga and there was a whole host of activities, like crazy things. Even one of the activities, even holding your child. There are so many random things on there. And there was restorative yoga. Now I'd done a very chilled class. It wasn't actually restorative, but equally I wasn't really getting my heart rate up. It was more of a stretch class. It was kind of in the middle. So I was thinking, which one do I actually log it as? And I thought I'll just put yoga, just because it wasn't technically restorative. And as soon as I put that in, it was like, oh my God, your strain is this. And I thought, hang on a second, but it wasn't before. And you were tracking my heart rate the entire time, so you should know whether that actually caused that much strain. So I thought, I'm going to go in and I'm going to re-edit it to restorative yoga and see if that changed anything. But that stopped becoming an option when I tried to change it. But I think simply the labeling of a workout shouldn't matter in terms of strain. What should actually matter is your heart rate. I could do a cycle and it could be the most chilled cycle ever, and I could be downhill freewheeling the whole time, not using any heart rate whatsoever, just keeping at such a steady heart rate. If I type in that I've been for a cycle, all of a sudden you're going to say it was this much strain. No. I can have an easy bike or I could have a hard bike. They could be two different sessions. Just categorizing something as what it was doesn't automatically mean a certain amount of strain. So again, more proof to me that you actually have no idea what you're measuring. You're just making it up. Then when it comes to heart rate, resting heart rate, things like that, heart rate variability, the numbers are way off what Garmin is saying, and it's not to say that Garmin is any more accurate necessarily in terms of the particular number that it's showing. But what I had noticed is that if I woke up and I was feeling particularly crappy, my Garmin's heart rate data would accurately reflect that. So if I was waking up feeling a bit crappy, I would notice my heart rate variability would have dipped a little bit, my resting heart rate would have risen a little bit. And I would look at my Whoop would be like, you had a really long sleep, well done, your recovery was so good. Oh my God, look, your heart rate variability is up by 6%. And I thought, no, it's not. And again, it's not to say that the Garmin is the most accurate thing you could possibly get. However, I know that the data that this shows me is consistent. It is also consistent with how I'm actually feeling. It's consistent with how I'm performing. I have not noticed crazy discrepancies between this watch and me, whereas I have been noticing crazy discrepancies between this watch and me. And then seeing them together is a bit wild. If I was only using the Whoop, I would think that I was some kind of athlete, and I'm not some kind of athlete. And I know that what it's telling me is not realistic whatsoever. I will say I've noticed a little bit more, not necessarily accuracy, but I've noticed things both moving in the same direction on both watches the more that I've had it, ever so slightly, but there's still a huge amount of discrepancy. Going back to steps, I'll pop some examples on the screen, but one time I did 8,000 steps on here and this was saying 13,000. 8 steps and 13,000 is a big jump, guys. And it wasn't even as if, oh, it's always saying 2,000 more, 3,000 more. Sometimes it was 1,000 more, sometimes it was 2, sometimes it was 4, sometimes it was all over the place. So again, accuracy is minimal. Another part of the app is the Whoop plan. So it uses AI and all the data that it gives you to come up with your perfect plan, and you can choose your goal, whether you want to be more athletic, recover better, whatever you want to focus on. And mine is feel better. That's one of the options it gave me, so I clicked on it. And one of the things that it really wants me to work on, or really wants me to keep up, is steps. So interesting that you're going to put so much emphasis on steps as something that you didn't even prioritize in the first iteration of your band. And it wants me to get 18,800 steps plus every single day. Because it so inaccurately tracks my steps, it has set me a goal so astronomical, I truly would never in a trillion billion years ask any of my clients for any reason whatsoever to ever reach those steps in one day, let alone many other days. So now it's saying get back on track because I've not managed my step goal. Well, that's actually insane, by the way, to ask anyone to do that, no matter what their goal is. Seems crazy. As part of the recovery stuff, it wants to know what your day has been like so that it can see what type of things work together, what has influenced your recovery, so on and so forth. So you have this little journal, which I'll just show you, and you can add or take away questions. So there are questions on a whole host of things. Again, really random things like, have you taken ketamine today? No. So there's a load of wild questions on there, a whole host of things. So for example, on here, it's had any alcoholic drinks, caffeine, artificial light, magnesium supplements, creatine supplements, electrolyte supplements. Have you worn blue blocking glasses to bed? Have you eaten food close to your bedtime? Have you read non-screened devices while you're in bed? A book. Have you taken melatonin? Have you viewed a screen in bed? Have you been wearing earplugs to bed? So they're the questions that I get prompted to answer every single morning. Now, I noticed that when the little AI box was coming up, I wish I hadn't got rid of it because it would come up here underneath that and it would say, oh, your recovery wasn't quite as good today, but your sleep was really good. So actually it could have been alternative factors, but it wasn't able to tell me what those alternative factors might have been, despite the fact that I was filling out that form every single morning. I thought it said, oh, it could have been, in fact, no, I tell you what, it said it could have been stress. I can't remember what the things were, but it was like stress, alcohol, things like that. It gave just like 4 general examples. And I thought, well, what's the point of me putting in that journal every day if you can't tell me what has affected my sleep? And yesterday, I actually had a couple of drinks in the day and my recovery was bad. Well, it wasn't bad, but it was orange. It wasn't green. And I didn't fill out my journal, and I haven't been filling it out for the past couple of days because it's an extra ball ache and I'm not seeing any reward for that. I'm not seeing any extra data for it, so I just haven't been doing it. And today I woke up and it said, your sleep was really good and it was really long, but your recovery wasn't good, and that could be because of external factors such as, and it gave me the same examples again. So me using the diary or not using the diary did not have an effect on the option that it was showing me. So again, why am I wasting my time? Because actually it was meaning that I was using a screen device in the morning because I was thinking, oh, I need to fill out my little journal. It's not giving me anything. I honestly think just don't waste your money, because unless you want to walk around with 2 watches on, which I don't particularly, you're never going to use this by itself. It's not a watch, so you can't see the time on it. So it's redundant in that aspect. I can't accurately track any of my activities. And by the way, when it does track an activity, so if it does automatically track a run, for example, it can't tell you how far you've gone. It can only tell you your heart rate zones and the calories that you've burnt. It does not tell you how far you've gone. So if you are using it as an athlete, as someone who is doing a little bit more activity, you're not able to track the distance, so you're going to still need to use another watch. So what is the point of spending £27 a month? Please explain that to me. And in fact, just as I mentioned calories, another thing is obviously, because it's tracking heart rate, it will account for your calories. Now, of course, I don't ever suggest that anyone uses those in any kind of way. They're not accurate, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Don't look too deeply into it. However, knowing myself, knowing that when I do track my calories, what kind of calories I aim for and what kind of result that yields. So pretty much knowing where my maintenance line is, knowing where that deficit line is, surplus line, so on and so forth. I have a pretty good idea of where that sits around. My Garmin is pretty accurate. So on days where I'm not doing a lot of activity, it is basically pushing out the exact kind of maintenance line that I would aim for. When it comes to this Whoop, it literally explains to me that the calories that it shows me is a calculation based on an estimate of my BMR and my heart rate throughout the day. So explain to me why then, in days where I'm not doing a lot of expenditure, it is telling me that my BMR plus my activity for the day, and that is walking around, doing what I gotta do. Why is it telling me 1,500 calories that I've burnt throughout the day, 1,300 on this day? What do you mean? There is not a chance my BMR is going to be sitting around 1,500, 1,600. Again, based on everything that I have done in the past that has worked well for me. The calculation is there. I know it works. I know what my BMR is. I know what works for me. That is dangerous for anyone to assume that they need to be eating less than 1,500 calories, because it literally says underneath, if you consume more calories than you burn, you will gain weight. If you consume less calories than you burn, you will lose weight. And if you match the two, you will maintain your current weight. If I was eating 1,500 calories every day, I would not maintain my weight. It is dangerous for you to be so inaccurate that I may decide to start eating under my BMR. Nobody on this earth should be eating under their BMR. So quite literally 100,000 reasons on why you should not waste your money on the Whoop. Literally buy anything else. A Garmin mechanical, go for it. She works. I've had no problems. And by the way, I've had Fitbits, I've had Garmins, I've had Apple Watches. I've had a pretty good spectrum. This is the worst thing that I've ever put on my wrist. There is quite literally no reason that you need the Whoop. And I hope that, by the way, that was somewhat cohesive and coherent, because I didn't plan to say anything. I just thought I just need to get my thoughts out. So I guess it was probably a bit bitty and bobby around what I was actually trying to put together. There was no start, middle and end. There was just word vomit. But hopefully I've got across everything I needed to get across, and it did make some kind of sense. And I will see you in next week's video, which I will film, I promise. And you can have an update on my training, you can have an update on my ultra, because might be injured, might not be injured, not sure what's going on. I've got an osteo appointment tonight, we're going to find out, but I thought I'd wait till the osteo before I update you guys, because otherwise I'm just blabbing into the abyss. Have a great weekend.